2 years ago, we were a great nation, and we will be a great nation again.
And that's why tonight, I'm...
But not to detract from tomorrow's very important, even critical election.
Darn it.
And I would say, in the strongest way, it's a country-saving election, specifically including the election of all the people that I'm going to name. I'm going to be making a very big announcement on Tuesday, November 15th at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida.
Son of a gun!
We want nothing to detract from the importance of tomorrow.
Son of a Trump! We got trolled!
So, I'm going to go over a list of people, and I think you'll find it really inspiring, because they're very inspiring people. So we must first elect J.D. Vance for the Senate in Ohio, Mike DeWine for governor in Ohio, Dr. Oz for Senate in Pennsylvania, Doug Mastriano for governor in Pennsylvania, Blake Masters for Senate in Arizona.
Shout out to Blake Masters.
Carrie Lake for governor in Arizona. A great guy who I've known for a long time. He fought with
250,000 people are watching on Rumble right now, staying all the way to the end.
Lee Zeldin for governor in New York. He's doing great. One of the greatest athletes you'll ever meet, Herschel Walker for Senate.
Shout out to Herschel Walker. Yeah, Paul Minot says on Locals that it's a draw,
Georgia.
right? It's a draw, I guess.
Adam Laxalt for Senate in Nevada.
He did make an announcement.
And Joe Lombardo for governor in Nevada. Marco Rubio for Senate in Florida. And Ron DeSantis for governor in Florida. Tudor Dixon for governor in Michigan. And Ron Johnson for Senate in Wisconsin.
Shout out to Ron Johnson.
Tim Michaels for governor in Wisconsin. Chuck Grassley for Senate in Iowa. And Kim Reynolds for governor in Iowa. Katie Britt for Senate in Alabama. Kelly Shabaka for Senate in Alaska. Mike Dunleavy for governor in Alaska. John Bozeman for Senate in Arkansas.
Good night, K-Bean.
Sarah Sanders. Did
Thanks,
you ever
Lean.
hear of her? She's great. For governor in Arkansas. Leora Levy for Senate in Connecticut. Mike Crapo for Senate in Idaho. Jerry Moran for Senate in Kansas. Derek Schmidt for governor in Kansas. Rand Paul for Senate in Kentucky. John Kennedy for Senate in Louisiana.
The
Eric
big
Schmidt
final
for
speech.
Senator in
Get out and
Missouri.
vote for everybody.
Ted Budd for Senate in North Carolina.
Get out and vote. Now, there's not been a ton of activity on Trump in terms of some of the legal cases. There was something slightly interesting that I wanted to share with you here. We were covering one of Trump's cases, which involved the J6 committee. And remember, Congress is going to be changing power very likely very soon. And if the next Congress is Republican, which many people are expecting it to be, it is very likely that they're not going to want to continue the Inquisition, the MAGA Inquisition that's been taking place for several years now. And that the committee, by virtue of, well, its own creation documents and by virtue of the fact that Congress changes hands, it's sort of set to expire anyways. But there's unlikely to be another fake January 6th illegally constituted select committee out there. And so what has happened in this case, Donald Trump, as the plaintiff, he was suing Benny Thompson. You may remember these. We've talked about several of these cases, but they submitted a joint motion for an extension. Okay, so we call this a continuance in the law, which means in this case, which is Donald Trump versus Benny Thompson on the January 6th Select Committee, they're just agreeing that they're going to postpone this case further out, and that is ultimately, it's going to moot the whole case, right? Because it's going to push it beyond the point at which the J6 committee is going to be constituted. So it's going to evaporate and then it's going to be moot. There's really no reason for Trump to sue Benny Thompson anymore if there's no J6 committee. And so you see here, pretty brief. This was submitted by both sides. It says a joint motion for a further extension of time to respond to the complaint. The parties in this case jointly request a further extension of time so that Benny Thompson, the defendant, can respond. The court has granted 7 prior extensions of response time. All right. Extension. The party's motion, supported by good cause, the Supreme Court denied the stay. The court denied plaintiff's petition for certiorari, which means Trump tried to take this up to the Supreme Court and didn't get it there. The parties have continued to confer with respect to the government's rights. The parties have agreed to continue this, saying that the status quo is appropriate until we can determine the next steps. But look, 60 days until January 9th, 2023. Oh, that's when the balance of power is going to be shifting. So the parties are granting this. They're asking the court to grant it, and it's signed off on by the U.S. Department of Justice, which means, it's very likely that this is going to be granted. Both sides agree to it, and it will be postponed. But we'll, of course, continue to follow and see if there's any other litigation that pops up. We will come back. We're going to put a pin in this segment. We're going to come back at 8 p.m. Eastern time and see if there's anything good percolating around at the Trump J.D. Vance rally. Whether or not he decides to announce is yet to be seen. So we'll check back in on that. We've got the YouTube poll has us at 64% say no. So 64% say no. He's just a big tease. He's not actually going to announce anything. And we'll see. Right. I think that probably is true, I think. But at the same time, it sort of begs the question, like, what does Trump gain from announcing 2 weeks from now? Why would 2 weeks from now be better than today? If he announced today, he could come out and enthuse everybody, right? The Democrats would rush to the polls. The Republicans would rush to the polls. Voter turnout would probably not, it would probably break records, right? On the back of this announcement. And if it works out for Trump, right, if the Republicans have a tremendous victory, maybe he could take credit for that. But if it doesn't work out for him, maybe a sort of a gimmick like that, if you wanted to frame it that way, maybe that would hurt the Republicans because it would enthuse a bunch of Democrats to get up and go to the polls. They say, oh, Trump announced again? Now I'm really angry. So I can see it both ways. Don't really know what's going to happen tonight, but we'll see if we can check back in, time permitting. So Trump announcement, we'll stay tuned on that.